Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Post. Our guest for today's episode is a seasoned social media professional with a diverse background spanning the media, third sector, and now B2B industries. Currently, he works as the social media specialist at Enable, where he leverages his extensive experience to drive impactful social media strategies and engagement. Outside of his professional life, he enjoys watching wrestling, serving as a dedicated taxi service for his little girl, and has recently taken up the challenge of growing vegetables in his garden. So let's welcome Kieran Brannan to the show. Kieran, are you ready to go behind the post with me?
I think I am, yeah, definitely am. That sounds so much more professional than I often feel, that introduction, and it just yeah, that's just so weird when
When you hear it being
I'm
said back to you, like, is that me?
yeah, that almost sounds impressive, but I don't feel it.
No, it definitely sounds impressive. So, with the impressive bio, before we dive into this episode, for any of our listeners who don't know, what is Enable and what does your role entail?
So Enable is a tech company. We mainly serve in the sort of like cybersecurity, remote monitoring and management area. So we create the software and we provide it to managed service providers who then look after lots of SMBs around the globe. And my main role is to create copy and content for our social media channels, help develop strategy, and build brand awareness and get them engagement scores up.
That's the goal. So, since we're
Yeah.
on creating content for social media, from looking at Enable's LinkedIn page, I can see that your brand is super active on social. So, when it comes to LinkedIn, what is your posting strategy?
Well, I think for us, and I think it should be sort of like more adopted right across the board. People don't post enough. Everybody thinks, "Oh, yeah, we could get away with maybe three posts a week on LinkedIn." But it's no, like we do 3 to 5 a day, and
Wow.
it seems like a lot, but it's better. It is so much better because it's great. It'd be great if you posted 3 times a week and you got 50 engagements on each of those. But if I post 35 times a week and I get 20 on each of those posts, I've still got more engagement. I've more people have seen my content, more people know who my brand is. They know what we offer, what we're all about. We're getting pushed to more and more people. And I know a lot of people often worry, like, oh no, you're cannibalizing your own content. But so long as you space it out evenly enough throughout the day, it still plays and it still goes out and it still works. It's just all about that sort of like testing things at the start to find out what that cadence is for you and your audience. And once you find that out, you just got to keep feeding the beast because that's what it is. And I feel like that's the same for a lot of brands. I mean, when you see like TikTok these days as well, it's so much the same. If we're not doing a lot on TikTok, I've been doing a lot of research into TikTok because I think I would like to just to do a bit more over there. But
Yeah.
the consistency and the amount of content that you're putting out, you need that level in order to keep landing hits because you're fighting against so much. And especially on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, maybe even 18 months ago, was quite quiet. Everybody still saw it as that place where you dump your CV and hopefully whenever you lose your job, you go and try and find a connection over there and be like, hey, look, this is what I've done before. Do you know anybody who's hiring? Whereas now it's a place for thought leadership. It's a place to really expand who you are as a brand, both as a company and on a personal level as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all about finding putting more out there, making sure more people find you.
It's so interesting to hear your opinion on this and how you post a lot. And you're saying that it's working for you. And I know that it is from previous conversations with you. So we'll dive into it. And I'm excited for our listeners to hear your results. But it's interesting because a lot of people don't have this mindset. So as you're saying that the engagements are working and it's proving that it's working for Enable and for your LinkedIn page, the first question that actually comes to my head right now is if you're aiming to post 3 to 5 times a day, how do you come up with so many fresh and engaging content like this to post? Where do you get it from?
It's another thing that a lot of people like they know, but they're afraid to do. It is repurposing. It's you
Yeah.
taking something you already have, finding a new way to use it, and sometimes that does just mean using the exact same graphic, carousel, video, but changing the copy you've put out with it. Or it's taking a video that you have from a podcast and finding a good clip from it, putting the clip out, but then also finding a good quote. Then you take that, you've got a quote graphic to go with it, going through the transcript, feed it into a lovely like chat GPT kind of thing, and get it to like bring up the big points of discussion throughout that transcript, turn that into a carousel. There's
Yeah.
always different ways to use your content and spread it out a lot further than you originally think. A lot of people were kind of getting on with this idea, especially last year. You saw a big rise in companies making podcasts because they realized podcast is a great funnel for content. All of a
Yeah.
sudden,
We love podcasts here at Octopus.
yeah, they're so good. I noticed that it feels a bit redundant to say, but everything is content, and so many people are so scared to like accept that. But
Yeah.
everything is content, and people need to start looking at things in a different way when they're reading a blog. They're like, oh yeah, that's a blog. We're going to put that on the website. That will just sit there, and maybe 30 people will go see it because don't get me wrong, blogs still have their place. And I often feel bad when I say this, but I don't remember the last time I purposefully went and like to seek out a blog on its own. Now, if it's something that's popped up in a social feed, maybe a newsletter, I will, click through to go to that blog. But it's not something I directly go to anymore. So we need to find ways to get people there by taking that nice juicy content from there and
Yeah.
spreading it out and just finding different ways to do it.
Yeah,
But
it's so true. I think that social media managers, there's so many like content assets at their fingertips that they can take and pull so much information from. And even just a blog, say there's a stat in there, that's one post.
yeah,
Then you can pull something and do a poll. And then, as you said before, you can take like the key takeaways and do a carousel. And the blog has so much that you can repurpose from. And you're right, everything is content. There's so much you can take. And now it makes sense to me, now that you've explained it, how you can come up with so many content assets to post on social. Because at first I was like, where does he get all the ideas from? But it's just framing it and taking the same thing, but framing it in a different way. So
yeah.
thank you for explaining that, because it sounds like a super helpful tip for everybody listening as well. Um, so I know that a big part of your social strategy focuses on content repurposing at scale, clearly. So
Mhm.
what assets do you take to pull from content from social, and what do you turn them into? So do you have like specific examples of what you've done in the past?
So one of the big things we sort of did recently at the start of this year, we had our first big report. It was called the MSP Horizon report, and it was like a step towards like a more futurology thing from us and guessing where things in our industry are going to be in the next 5 years. And in that, there were so many good stats. There's so many good takeaways from that. All of a sudden, I've got stuff I can use for polls. So, like, I think it was something like 22% of MSPs say that finding new clients is one of the hardest things for them just now. So all of a sudden, you turn that into a poll on LinkedIn, and you reference back to it, and you're like, 22% of the people who answered this in a report said this. Are you finding the same thing? And then you're getting more information from them, and that can be then fed back to you know other people within the organization. This all helps move us towards figuring out what our audience really wants and what they need to learn from us. We have ebooks that go out all the time as well. We have white papers. Um, we've got blogs. We've got so much content. We have the head nerds who do boot camps and office hours, and they have these PowerPoint presentations that are packed with such good information that sometimes I just sit down and I go through their PowerPoints and I just start pulling things from it. And
Yeah.
because they've broken it down in a way that is visually easy for the people in the boot camps to understand, it makes it also easier for me to understand and for me to then turn it into a piece of content for social because like full transparency, like I don't come from the tech world. Like you were saying earlier, I've worked in media, I've worked in the third sector, I've worked so yeah, I did charity stuff, and but I've never done tech before, so this was all brand new to me when I came into it. But I think for social media managers, it shouldn't matter what sector you're working in. Our tools are completely transferable. We can sit down in front of anything. We should be able to sit down in front of anything and pull content from it. It's the same with a copywriter. It doesn't matter like if they're getting a bunch of information from a car manufacturer or from a dentist. They should be able to break that down, turn it into a nice piece of copy that could then go out. You should always be able to just like find those pieces that are there and make content from it. And sometimes it is as easy as finding a nice stat because people love numbers and
Yeah.
people like connect to that so much easier. And you just get that stat out there, and people are like, oh, this is that's really relatable.
Yeah. I notice that all the time when I'm scrolling through LinkedIn and I see a stat, I'm like, oh, it's sort of like data-driven storytelling. I know that's a bit of a
Yeah.
buzzword in marketing, but I can sort of relate it and like comprehend it and understand it in my head and be like, am I part of that percentage? If it's about something general, like how do I feel about it? And it kind of imposes more of an emotional response, which is why
Hmm.
they're so amazing. So pulling them is also amazing for social in general. And you
Yeah.
mentioned before that you can get if you said to when you posted out a post, you said to your audience, how do you feel about it? And they send stuff back and you can take it to your team.
Hmm.
Kind of as a two-way street because you go to all the different departments in your company, find out what they have to share with you because they're producing so much, whether it's an event,
Yeah.
webinar, like ebooks, as you mentioned, white papers, blogs, and it comes down to you for social once you build those
Yeah.
relationships
Yeah.
and
And
then
that's sorry. I was just that's
no,
one
go
of the
for
things
it.
I'm most like proud of as well is because I often felt like when you work in social media, you're usually working either by yourself or a really small team, and you are at like the tip of this little pyramid, and you're trying to reach down to try and find content and try to grab it from the top of this hill and find all this stuff that's down there, but you can't really reach it. Whereas I think the way I've sort of like built the relationships across the company, I've tried to like flip it into a funnel and marketing people love funnels. They
Love
love the
funnel.
term funnel, but all of a sudden all this stuff is trickling straight down to me. Whenever something is happening, I am involved. Whether I'm getting CC'd into an email to be told that this event's happening here at this time, or someone saying, right, we have um new information about this going out on YouTube. You could go grab that video if you'd like. Here's what's roughly about. So all this is kind of getting fed into me now, and it's hard work, and a lot of people in different organizations that I've spoken to have found barriers put in the way from that. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, no, but they're really secretive and they don't want us to know what's going on. I'm like, you are in the one company. There is no need for them to be secretive about you, and
Yeah.
you need to break down what's the buzzword, the silo walls, because everything
Yeah.
is so siloed these days,
Yeah.
and we
Everything's
need
in a
break.
silo.
Yeah, we need to break down those walls, and just everybody needs to realize if you're in an organization, everything should be available to everybody in the organization. And
Yeah,
we need to
for
stop
sure.
being so scared about turning it into social content. Because see, if it's going out in a video, there's no reason why that can't be then turned into a graphic. If the information is available here, let's make it available here, 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 and here as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's amazing that you've got that running so efficiently and that people are coming to you because I think it's quite hard to establish that. So
Yeah.
you're a very
Uh,
unique and lucky position that that was like able to happen because you're right. Sometimes social media managers are sitting alone or on a small team and they're trying to find content from everywhere. So having, like as you said, you flip the funnel and they're
yeah.
coming it makes your life easier as well when it comes to repurposing content. And at the end of the day, I think if anyone's listening that wants to try and implement this, it's a mutual benefit. It helps you
Yeah.
because as social media manager, you get more, but also all these other departments, their hard work that they've done, instead of just leaving it just on YouTube or just up on the website, it's getting so much more attention. So it's actually a
Yeah.
mutual benefit for everyone.
That was the big thing that sort of like, it flicked in their brain when I was explaining it to them. I was like, look how many more people are reading this. Like, look how many more people are signing up to your webinar because
Yeah.
you've given me information that you're going to use in the webinar that I can use, right? Don't give me the big selling point, the big end all kind of thing that you really want to push in the webinar, but give me enough that I can make them go to it, and they
Yeah.
will go. You will get the signups, and it's yeah, it's not always easy, and some people do still, like oh no, we can't put that out just yet, and I'm like, okay, but we can, we really
It's
can,
always a way.
yeah.
So I'm wondering, because I know that you do loads of content repurposing clearly, and there's all different content types that you use. What have you noticed the most success with?
It it varies. I think that's the big thing. It really does fluctuate. For a long time, it was video. Video isn't as hitting as hard anymore. Car sales are picking up
Interesting.
again. I've even noticed, single image graphics on LinkedIn are doing really well just now. But
Wow.
it totally fluctuates. I think from what I have started to see, the next peak is going to be around videos, but vertical video, because LinkedIn are bringing in their new um, TikTokification of
Yeah,
the
it's like
platform. You know where you've got to scroll through the
it's stuck on
videos.
a rabbit hole on TikTok, and now you're just stuck in a rabbit hole on LinkedIn because you just
Yeah,
keep scrolling
yeah.
up.
So the more your videos are fit to that, the more
Yeah,
chances they are to push them as well. Because I think not a lot of people are doing it just now. So if you get in early, it's a good thing. And I'm
yeah,
just giving away all these secrets to people, and I'm going to have to fight against them and the algorithm now. But it's good. It's a it's trying to find a new niche all the time and try to find out
yeah,
what's, and because we are putting out so much content, it's easier to then track and keep an eye on what is performing well. In the background, the like the system we use for publishing, it has these really good tags, and like everything is tagged. So I know like what product a post was mentioning. I know who the if it had a link in the post. Chances are it didn't have a link in the post. I know if it's if it was a piece of thought leadership, if it was just a bit of like product news, if it was people news, if it was all these kind of things, and then so I could track all that. I can also see was it
yeah,
carousel, was it an image, was it a video, what,
yeah.
and
You can really
it's
drill down
really
into
really helpful. Yeah, and
drill down into the topic, into the content type. That's super helpful.
yeah.
So since you mentioned it, it's a bit of a hot topic still, and I'm really interested in this debate. You mentioned link in if there was a link in the post. I don't think we could go through this episode without me asking you. And since you're, as you said, you're repurposing content from websites, blogs, webinars, do you post the link
uh like
in the post?
9% of the time. It's less than
Wow.
10% of the time. Like
Okay.
it's the content doesn't need to have a CTA, and a lot of people are scared by that, right? People are like, no, no. If it's going out, we need to be able to track this, and we need to be able to say why this post is going out. The post is going out to speak to your audience. It's going out to speak to the people and like build your brand awareness. The more you're asking from people, the more they are to shy away from that. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people are lazy on social media, and I don't mean that in a bad way. That is just like if you are asking them to take too many steps to do one thing, they're not going to do it. That content on social media just now should be entertaining, it should be educational, it should be fun, it should be like community driven, it should be based on that platform. One of the things I do try to do if I'm trying to get someone to go somewhere is I'll direct them to go press the button on our page, because at the end of the day, LinkedIn, Facebook, well, Meta, they're companies and they want to make money. So organic reach is harder to get, especially if you stick a link in there and their algorithm picks up on that. It's like, oh no, we could charge you to make people see that. We're not going to push that out to all your followers for free.
Yeah. That
So
makes so much sense.
if you direct them to your page, that's keeping them on your platform. That's keeping them on the LinkedIn platform. Then when they click the link, the button, that then takes them through a link that LinkedIn can track, which means they could sell that information, make more money, and sell your data and figure out what the things are you're in interested in and get the correct ads into your feed. So that benefits them in the long run. and it's also just a different way to do it for us. But you've probably seen, LinkedIn has changed how it's showing links these days as well to
Yeah.
external sites. It's making them so much smaller, and people are trained to see that and not engaged. They're like, oh, someone's just trying to get me to go do something, and they will scroll right past you. Take the information from that blog and turn it into something else and put it on your social media platform, you know, and try and build a conversation around it. There's other times when, um, if we have an event on and there's a specific person who is in charge of that event, I'll tag them and be like, get in touch with this person to find out more.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
so interesting. That's an interesting way around of putting the link in for signing up. They just and
yeah,
it also yeah, it's a really good idea because also they build some tension for the person that's leading the event.
yeah,
So
it builds that sort of personal brand around them, and then all of a sudden, if they become like, a very, a top voice in the industry, is great for us, because that voice works for us. That voice works for
yeah,
your organization. And it's another reason why, like everybody's always saying, like more people need to work on their personal brand, especially on LinkedIn, because we want to show that that person works for your company, the best work here.
yeah,
To go
that's
back to
super
like something that
interesting.
was like in my intro, right? A big wrestling fan, okay? And
Yeah,
one one of the lines that keep coming from one of the wrestling companies just now is like, it's like AEW, we're the best wrestle, right? And I think everybody needs to think of that in their own kind of way, and like their company, we're the best, do their thing. So it doesn't matter what you're selling, what you're offering, the best people should be in your organization, and it's another way to show that off because it's good for your brand, and people think, oh,
yeah.
they're a good company, they must be good to work for or have good benefits or just be really good in their sector if all these top people are coming from there.
Yeah, definitely. There's such an interesting way around it. And it's very clear that you're playing to the algorithm. So that in the end it's helping you
Yeah.
because you're not really linking out of it. You're also providing educational, thoughtful content and not really sending people on a massive journey to get where you want to get them when you could just show them on LinkedIn and they don't really have to go through the effort.
Hmm.
And they're
Yeah.
internalizing the information without even realizing, probably.
Yeah. That's the hope anyway.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's the truth. So I'm interested. We kind of spoke about this throughout the episode, and you mentioned something briefly at the beginning. But I know that you're taking loads of content, pulling it from one asset, for example, to make posts on social media. So a lot of people also always want to keep their social strategy new, fresh, engaging. Do you think content on social needs to always be original? Where's the balance?
It doesn't always need to be. There is no original thoughts anymore, and I fully believe there is no originality anymore. There is just variations of everything that's already there, and that's okay. It's all about finding what your variation is of that original idea. If you do get an original idea, that's fantastic. That's great. But there's also the chance, because of the way that algorithms work and people are constantly looking for something that's viral. If it's original, no one will recognize it, so they don't know whether or not they should engage with it as well,
Yeah.
and unless it properly pops off. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the content we use, it was kind of like going back to what I said earlier. Like, I'll use the same piece of content multiple times, not like close to each other. I try to make sure there's like a good space between it, and as I was saying, like with the blogs, I'll try and get at least three, if not more, pieces of content out of that blog and space that out as well across like maybe a couple weeks when I'm trying to post it. It doesn't need to be original, especially when you think about, say your company has 50,000 followers. Your The average reach is down across most of LinkedIn just now because there's so many people flooding to the platform. So you're maybe reaching what, 1-2,000. So all of a sudden, that's 48,000 followers of yours that haven't seen that piece of content. The next time you put it up, either someone else is going to see it, or the same person might see it. But if you go back to even traditional marketing and sales thoughts, how many touch points do you need before you can make a sale? That's just another touch point. They are seeing the same thing again.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's super interesting because also maybe if you see a post performing well, Someone's not going to remember if you post it again, let's say a month, 2 months later.
No, they're not,
It might
and
not
even if
work.
they yeah, even if they do, they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, 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 I did like that before. That reminds me of this.
Yeah.
I wonder if I should, like, maybe look into that again
Yeah.
because
You can always
we've
tweak
all."
it as well.
Yeah,
But
exactly. So, like, the copy can be different, I think, is the main one. Like, the copy around the image could change, but the image could still be the same. Like, I've got this carousel that I've used maybe 3 times in the past 2 months,
oh
and
wow.
every time I put it out, it
Yeah.
does amazing for us. And
Wow.
it's so, I from that, I'm now trying to, make different content from the carousel. So it's getting even more granular. Like from this big thing that was originally there, I made this, and now this is doing well. So I'm now trying to take stuff from
Mm,
this and break it down even
yeah.
further, and figure out
Yeah.
what part of that has made it work so well that then I
Yeah.
could build on it going forward. It gets proper geeky and proper like into it at times, but I think that's if you have the freedom and the time and ability to do that, because I know a lot of people don't have that time to do it, but if you do, it's worth digging into these
Yeah.
kind that kind of information.
I think it's so interesting because I think a lot of people don't know where to try it. But now, if anyone's listening and has always thought about trying it, at least they know now and have the confidence that that's working for you. If
Yeah.
something's performing well and you want to post it again, it worked for you. So why not try it and like take those risks? And it's all about experimenting and see what works for your brand. Because obviously every
Mhm.
brand is different, every brand's audience is different. But I think hearing your experience with it is really interesting. We're going to move on to the last question. And considering everything that the wealth of knowledge that you have and have shared through this episode, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. But what is the best piece of social media advice you've ever received throughout your career?
Um, Organic social media is a testing ground, so never be afraid to put something out. And if it does badly, it will disappear within the next 20 minutes and be buried under someone else's post. So don't worry. I think that's it's because so many people are so scared to post things and they overthink it so much. And I'm not saying just like write anything and slap it up online because we don't do that. But if you think it's a good idea, post it. If it works, you have now got something you can show off and be like, "Look how good I am." If it doesn't work, you have learned something,
Yeah.
and, another one is probably make sure you know what words mean before you use it. I once got in a lot of trouble for using the term infamous when, when it when
The notorious.
no, 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 I meant, it was, everybody knows about this, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much negative content. This was really early on
Yeah.
in like when I was doing stuff. So gosh, it'd probably be 8 or 9 years ago now, and I used the word infamous. And I got in a lot of trouble for that. But yeah,
No, that's
that's
really
so
good advice.
yeah,
Infamous has always been a bit of a confusing one, so don't worry, it's not
yeah,
just you. um, well, thank you so much. That advice, especially the last one, knowing what words means, is back to the basics. But in
yeah,
general, the advice is so helpful, and you're so right. It's a testing ground. Take risks, try it. What is the worst that can happen? You can delete it. It's okay. If it's really that bad, it's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Um, Thank you so much for joining me. This episode's so interesting. I really can't wait to set it live and all our listeners to hear it. You're literally like an expert on playing to the LinkedIn algorithm. So I feel like this was really great to pick your brains on content repurposing and your social strategy in general. So thank you so much for joining me.
No, thank you very much. It's been an absolute honor to be here.